Hi, I'm Sam here at Rick Jones Pianos with a rather magnificent piano, very satisfying to play. It is a Kawai model CA-40 built in Hamamatsu, Japan in 1988 and rebuilt perhaps 15 years ago with a new pin block, strings, tuning pins, possibly finished too. The finish looks almost brand new to me. It's a piano that we have done some work on. Tuning pins are tight. The piano on the inside was quite clean when it came in, but it did need some regulation and some work on the pedals to make everything as smooth as possible. And wow, we really got good results on this piano. And it is, in my opinion, a testimony to how carefully, thoughtfully designed Kawai pianos are, and with such consistently high quality control that Kawai pianos are made. It's those two things together that really make it easy for us technicians to get really good results out of both Yamaha and Kawai. They're rivals, both in the same city in Japan, both, in my opinion, with excellent quality control, but with different musical characteristics. And this piano, it really reminds me a lot of a Steinway, like an old Steinway. I'm thinking early 1900s Steinway from like around World War I. And the reason why I say that is because just listening to this piano, it feels like this massive wall of sound coming at me. No harshness in the tone whatsoever. It's a very warm, gentle sound, but when you play it loudly, it's a very big, gigantic sound. No harshness, just all round. And Kawais are known for having a round tone, mellower tone. This one I think is an exceptionally good example of that kind of sound, and it's just the massive wall of sound that was coming at me. It has no problem filling this large room, and well, it reminds me a lot of what I often encounter on older Steinways when we rebuild them. Really just a very special sound. And in general, the musical characteristics remind me a lot of what people have come to expect from Steinways: warmer tone, creamier tone, and also a firmer touch. Although this touch, it's firm, and it's, in my opinion, normal for Kawai, but when you need to play very quickly with little moving parts, like the first piece was by Mozart, his Sonata in A minor, if you want to look it up. Mozart, all full of tiny little moving parts. The piano made it easy for me. Actually, I thought when I first played this, I thought this was going to be kind of hard for me to play because I'm used to a lighter touch rather. But the keys feel so responsive, and they bounce back up to a ready position so quickly, and they remain in contact with the finger, so that gives you more information as a pianist when you're really making very quick movements, such as you would have to do on Mozart, for example. So it felt almost deceptively light in that case, because the keys just cooperated so well, but it is firmer. Just the overall amount of resistance in the keys is more than average, I would say, but it is, I think, quite typical for Kawai grands. I think it compares very favorably with Steinway grands, the more modern ones, past 40 years, say, and also the Boston piano, which is designed by Steinway and made by Kawai, the joint venture between the two. And for that reason, those three brands are often recommended by teachers of classical repertoire, with the understanding that it will make music written after, say, 1800 sound really good. I'm thinking late Beethoven, Chopin, Brahms, Liszt, Rachmaninoff. That piece, the last piece, was by, who was it by? Granados, his Spanish Dance No. 5, and he wrote that around 1900-ish. So that time period of music, which is very popular amongst classical piano teachers and students, that works really well with a warmer, mellower sound that you would come to expect out of a modern Steinway, and well, this Kawai delivers that for you too. Really quite satisfying to play. Having said all that, I'll rate the tone a 4 on a scale from 1 to 10. from from mellow to bright. It's on the mellow side, definitely, but it's really just no hint of harshness whatsoever. As loud as I could play, there was no zing sound or tinny sound whatsoever. It's just this warm, rounded sound. But when it's loud, it's just a big, massive wall of sound. It's really quite satisfying. Touch, firm, so that's a 6 on the scale from 1 to 10, from light to firm. And the piano does have a middle pedal sostenuto. Every CA series Kawai grain I've ever seen has one, and I should explain that more. Kawai made a number of more upgraded premium model lines of grand pianos. At the same time, they were making their long-standing KG series, KG standing for Kawai Grand. But it was, in my opinion, an answer to Yamaha's own conservatory series of more premium grand pianos that they introduced in 1967. Kawai introduced, first of all, the GS series in '79, and then they constantly made some design changes and improvements, releasing different models over the years to really up the game and really make it more of a premium sounding piano to compete with, in this case, a Yamaha C3, which will be the same size, 6'1". The CA stands for concert artist, so you could call this the concert artist series. They made it in the 40. CA-40 was a 6'8" model, and we rarely get those in. And they also made a CA-70, 7-foot something piano, which I've only seen one. They're pretty hard to find, and they weren't made for a whole long time either, because they eventually got replaced by the RX series in the mid-1990s. So the equivalent to this in that series would have been the RX3, now GX3. It reminds me a lot of that piano, really satisfying touch and very warm, mellow sound. So ultimately, this is a predecessor to the current day GX3, and if that's the type of sound you're looking for, I think you'll be quite happy with how this piano turned out. And like with all those premium pianos, this has a middle pedal sostenuto. You can play whatever notes on the keyboard you want, hold them down, depress the middle pedal. Only the notes you pre-selected will be held sustained. It's like having a third hand holding down notes on the keyboard for you. And of course, like everything else we sell, it has a 10-year warranty, all parts labor, and 100% lifetime trade-up guarantee. Just please make sure to have them tuned twice a year by a professional technician and kept out of extremes of humidity. And by 100% lifetime trade-up, we mean whatever the instrument sales price of whatever piano you buy from us, that is exactly, precisely the trade-in value if you want to come back to us in the future. I don't think you'll find a whole lot of pianos in their inventory that you would want to trade into unless you come back and fall in love with a Steinway Grand. Rest assured, Kawai pianos are workhorses. As long as you keep them in good condition, have a tuner technician really maintain them, I think you can expect many decades of musical enjoyment out of this piano still, especially with the replaced parts, the strings and the tuning pins and the pin block. So just trade in whenever you want, if you want to. I don't think you'll feel a need to trade this in because of anything that's wrong with it. If there's any problems, a technician will be able to fix it on the Kawai pretty easily. So please stop by, try this out for yourself. You can play it or anything else in our inventory. But if you can't make it, you can always give us a phone call or send us an email if you have any questions.